I wanted to talk to you today about something that doesn't get said very often. And when it does, it's usually misunderstood. There are seasons in life where you're not reflecting or learning or growing. You're just surviving. For me, that was the first year my son was born. I was numb. And I don't mean that in a poetic or a dramatic way. I mean it in a very practical, everyday way. That first year, my son was in Children's Hospital in Vancouver, and I was there constantly. I had to learn respiratory care from a respiratory technician. I had full trach care and G tube care. I had to learn it all. I didn't ease into any of it. I learned because, well, I had to. Between daily hospital visits, learning how to keep my son breathing and fed, my daughter being in a daycare that she absolutely hated, and my stepson doing things like lighting the shower curtain on fire, I was barely functioning. I wasn't processing anything. I wasn't having insights, and I wasn't being strong. I was just getting through the day. At the time, I didn't have language for that. I just knew I felt flat, disconnected, like I was watching my life instead of living inside it. People talk about resilience like it's something that you choose. For me, it wasn't. It was autopilot. You wake up, you do what needs to be done, and you don't really feel much like anything while you're doing it because there isn't room for it. That numbness wasn't failure. It was, for me, protection. But I didn't know that at the time. I thought something was actually wrong with me because I wasn't reacting the way people expected me to. I wasn't emotional in the right way. I wasn't inspirational. I wasn't falling apart. I wasn't okay either. I was just functioning. Looking back now, I can see that my nervous system was doing exactly what it needed to do to get me through a season that had no margin. And I think that matters to say out loud because a lot of people living with ongoing challenges think they're broken when they feel this numbness. And I don't believe that's true. Sometimes feeling numb is the only way you can survive a season that doesn't give you a choice. What came after that numbness, though, was something else. Waiting. Waiting for things to calm down. Waiting for life to feel familiar again. Waiting for a version of normal to return. For a long time, I thought waiting meant I was being responsible, that I was giving life time to correct itself. What I didn't realize was how much my life was postponed while I was waiting. I didn't stop showing up. I didn't stop caring. But part of me stayed anchored to the idea of before, and that quietly shaped how I lived. I see this in a lot of people who live with ongoing challenges. We tell ourselves we'll really live once this part is over, once things settle, once the next phase passes. And sometimes that part doesn't end. It just becomes the landscape of your life. That's where something shifts. Because at some point, you stop asking when life will go back to normal and you start asking a different question. How do I live well here? Not later, not someday. Here, right now, in this moment. That question doesn't come with dramatic answers. For me, it came with small, honest adjustments. Letting go of expectations that no longer fit, redefining what a good day looked like, allowing life to be quieter without calling it less. That's when adaptation stopped feeling like loss and started feeling like participation. because adapting doesn't mean giving up. It means acknowledging the reality that you're in and you choose to live inside instead of standing just outside waiting. One of the hardest things I had to accept was this: living well does not require life to feel familiar. Living well requires presence, being in the moment. It requires honesty, and it requires letting go of the idea that the before version of you was more valid than the one that you're in right now. Your life isn't smaller because it looks different. You're not behind because your pace has changed. You're not failing because your joy is quieter. This channel is called Still Living Well for a reason. Not because life turned out the way I had expected it, and not because things got easier, but because living well is still possible even when life turns out to be different. And well doesn't mean perfect. It means integrated. It means that your life makes sense to you. If you're in one of those seasons where it feels like all you're doing is getting through the day, some seasons don't leave room for reflection or big insights or figuring things out. They just ask you to show up and do what needs to be done. And that still counts as living your life. I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to feel something different than what we're actually feeling. And the truth is, some seasons are just heavy. Some seasons are just exhausting. If that's where you are right now, you don't need to fix it today. You're allowed to be right where you are and still call this life. If this season feels messy or harder than you expected, that doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It just means that this part of your life asks more of you than you were prepared for. And the fact that you're still here, still showing up, matters more than you probably give yourself credit for.